Okay, I guess Max is back here. My computer is acting really, really weird. If I don't get through this, or it doesn't record, or whatever, who the hell knows? Okay, this is August 2nd. It's Tuesday, going on late morning now. I'm still in my old ratty bathrobe. Uh, when I get done here, I will go downstairs and start today's dinner. Jenny at the moment is vacuuming downstairs. You know, it's a whole nother world down there. There's the upstairs world and there's the downstairs world. Oh my God, what a crazy life we are living. When I came upstairs, Mike was out on the front porch talking with an egg salesman, who Jenny doesn't like. She doesn't like this salesman. She doesn't like any of the egg salesmen. She thinks that, well, they're in it for the money, and they are. Can't deny that. But Mike regards them as his friends, and anyway, they were talking about the price of corn, I guess. I don't know. Try to pick this up wherever I left off. There's a lot of material today. If I cover all of it, I might have to talk for 2 hours. I will try not to do that. You know, the other day I was working on this, and I said there was a mistake somewhere in it, and I had taken this down where I could spread it out on the kitchen floor and find the mistake. Yeah, I did find the mistake, and Jenny thought we just leave it, who would ever notice, but I took it apart. Yeah, I took it apart. In one of the small blocks, the battlefield blocks, there are 23 separate pieces of fabric. And one of those 23 pieces was sewn in the wrong place. So it made a unit of 8 also in the wrong place, wrong configuration. And that threw the whole, there's an analogy in this. If we get one little piece misplaced in the fabric of truth that we are trying to assemble, it will distort the entire big picture. And we have all the pieces there. A lot of pieces are there. We in the truth movement do have a lot of pieces there. But some of the pieces are not in the right configuration. They are not in the right place. So there's an important analogy here. And we have to continue to be open of mind as we make the necessary alterations to maneuver these puzzle pieces to get them in the right place, the right focus. Absolutely not easily done. We have been so besieged online. The internet is, on one hand, our saving grace, and on the other hand, it is the enemy is so present on the internet. and so vicious. It's been a killer. Still is a killer. All right. Stand by one. I'm changing screens. Going right directly to this piece, which just came up. The Department of Homeland Security is granting some 8,000, and that's a conservative number, a fake number. There are many, many more thousands than that. The Department of Homeland Security is granting some 8,000 Syrian refugees temporary amnesty, according to the Washington Times. DHS Secretary Jay Johnson said that if these refugees are in the country as of Monday, they're eligible to permanent resident status, work permits, and other documents that would allow these migrants to remain without fear of deportation. This amnesty also applies to Syrian refugees that may have entered the country illegally. Secretary Johnson issued temporary protected status to Syrians, saying that if they are in the U.S. as of Monday and continue to reside here permanently, they can all apply for work permits and other documents to remain and live in the U.S. without fear of being ousted. His order applies to some 5,800 Syrians who were granted status under the original 2012 TPS program and 2,500 new arrivals who don't have a more permanent status here. Syria's lengthy civil conflict has resulted in high levels of food insecurity, limited access to water and medical care, and massive destruction of Syria's infrastructure. Attacks against civilians, the use of chemical weapons, and irregular warfare tactics, as well as forced conscription and use of child soldiers, have intensified the humanitarian crisis, Mr. Johnson said in announcing the new program. Those eligible for TPS include any Syrian illegal immigrants who have managed to sneak into or remain in the U.S. beyond their visa expirations over the last 4 years. That is just in. Moving on. Still having a little bit of delay. Okay. New subscribers. I am so pleased. And that just astonishes and amazes me that there continue to be new subscribers and there continues to be new viewers, many new viewers on the Outside blog. A comment that I received yesterday was, I thought, very, very lovely, and I will read it to you. This comment comes from Dave. Dave says, I really enjoy listening to your YouTube commentaries that accompany your blog. It is quite innovative and unique as far as I know. Stop right there for a second. I think this is great for several reasons. I wouldn't have thought to describe this particular effort as YouTube commentaries that accompany my blog. So I really appreciate having that defined. Quite innovative and unique as far as I know. I will say that desperate people do desperate things. I didn't really innovate this on my own initiative. I was forced. I was forced by my online enemies, the psychopaths, to find another avenue, to move to another venue. And this is what developed from that. So desperate people do desperate things, and that. But all things work together for good for those who love God. So even though the psychopaths thought they were going to shut me up, it appears that a power greater than them has altered that into what may be a positive. They didn't succeed in shutting Max up. They sure as hell tried. They will continue to try. And I will continue to, evade, escape and evade. I don't want to do hand-to-hand combat with the psychopaths. I don't read their stuff. I stepped away. I knew they were going to, take their best shot. And I said, go ahead, son of a bitches, bring it. Take your best shot. They did, and I stepped away. And this is where I stepped to. And so this is how I go on and how others go on with me. I am not alone. Sometimes it feels very lonely. Okay, going on. Dave continues. He says, it breaks my heart that you suffer so much from depression. It is difficult facing the evil all around us. I think you're helping more people than you realize. It does sting when people laugh at your beliefs, especially your family. We must plant seeds of truth as we can and share our faith and experience as the opportunities present themselves. Thank you for sharing and for caring. This is very, very heartwarming coming from Dave, and I appreciate it more than can be said. Let me say a few words about depression. First, depression is not a bad thing. Situational depression, when appropriate, is normal, natural, and necessary. We have been programmed towards the idea that to succumb to feelings of sadness and to recognize one's losses, to mourn those losses, to grieve those losses, is a weak behavior. No, it is not. It's perfectly legitimate. It is needful and necessary. And it is needful and necessary that others embrace the grieving one. It's very, very, very hard to express and to grieve alone, in secrecy and in silence. And I think at this time of the end, when we are confronting such horrendous and harsh facts and truths, and our innocence is being peeled and stripped away. Anyone who is aware of what is going on and who is not registering sense of loss, some grieving, a feeling within, oh my God, Father, Father, Father in heaven, help us. This is normal and natural. And we must support one another as we go through these revelations and these losses. Losses are grievous. But I can deal with all of that big world picture. I can deal okay with all of that, as most of the people who are, hearing my voice right now are also able to deal with that. It's in the private matters. And my lament, my sorrow, my grieving, my sense of loss, my loneliness, my intense loneliness for right now has to do directly and specifically with the absence of DQ. It has been said that happiness is the best revenge. I don't really get my head around why anyone would want to take any kind of revenge and inflict the pain, your pain, upon someone else. I don't get how that would give relief. But the other side of that coin is there is the sense that one should not reveal that one has been hurt. You shouldn't let your attacker know they have hurt you. Since, I don't have that kind of ego pride, I guess. I don't really care whether the attackers know they have hurt me or not. I don't, it's not going to engender in them any kind of remorse. It won't induce them to apologize. It won't induce them to change their stance. And it probably will give them momentary little burst of satisfaction. A little satisfaction. Oh, yeah, we hurt her. We hurt her. You goddamn right, you son of a bitches, you did. And that's okay. Your moments in the sun of your satisfaction are brief and they are limited. And you are going to rue the day. So having said that, back to the subject of depression. Once upon a time in my girlhood, and that really, that's been a few decades ago, but the word gay had a very different connotation than the way that word is used in modern times. When I was a girl, gay meant happy, bubbly, brightness, emotional brightness, gaiety. Children were gay, merry and gay. But as the script went on and the sodomite homosexual population increased and was being fielded upon society in a way that had never, ever in all history ever happened before. Gay, the word gay took on a very different meaning. And society in general began to view the normal loss and grieving process as undesirable. One should mask those feelings and should present the happy face. People liked you better if you were optimistic, bright, gay, happy. And certainly the present day gay rights movement puts out fronts the happy face, the gay parades. We're all happy, we're all joyous, we're all in love with everybody, and so that kind of worked hand in hand to where you become sort of a social outcast if you admit to normal, necessary, and important feelings of sadness and loss and longing. Okay, going on from that. It is difficult facing all the evil around us. Yes, it is. And we must stand strong alone, and we must stand strong together in whatever kind of configuration of togetherness we can scrape up. And, social media of one kind or another is one of the props that people are using. The forums, the Facebooking, the whatever means. Some work better than others. Okay, going on. It does sting when people laugh at your beliefs, especially your family. Well, back in 2008, when I began my intense investigation, I knew I didn't know it all. I knew I didn't know very much. I knew I knew practically nothing. And I didn't go forth as the know-it-all. I went forth as the student, inviting others to join me in this investigation, including my family. And at that time, in 2008, I was pretty much on the same page as most of my family. We had all reached that point together. But my family did not progress. A few of them progressed a little bit, but they dropped out. And in the end, those who dropped out didn't want to hear another word. I mean, they did not want to hear another word. However, there were many more people all over the country who did take part in the study groups, which is the way I thought of them, where we're working together, we're researching together. And of course, so that started in, I got, it's hot up here, I got to take this robe off. And so here I am, it's noon, and I'm in my nightgown, and I'm a crazy old lady, and that's how it is. Anyway, so over all these years, I've had contact with lots and lots of people, and I have learned a lot from lots and lots of people. And so that's sort of the pattern of what I have done and tried to do. It grieves me that my family members have not heeded some of my, yes, it grieves me. There are many, many young children who are dependent upon these adults who are their parents and their grandparents. And, you know, I'm in the role of the great grandparent, and I'm deeply grieved for the futures of all these many, many children. I probably have 50 great grandchildren descendants, counting my sister's children. I count them all. They're all mine. They all belong to me. And, you know, one of my driving motives has been I do not want to approach the throne of God and hear these little voices saying, Auntie, why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you take care of us? Auntie, why didn't you tell us? Yeah, damn right. That has been important to me. It still is. So that is one of the griefs. Will that go away? I doubt it. As times get harder and things are worse, that will continue to be present as part of my inner makeup. And, you know, I have to deal with that. So we do plant seeds of truth as we can, and we share our faith as we can. We share our experience as we can, as the opportunities present. And I think there are many of us doing this. I think that the conspiracy researchers who have worked on all these projects over many years with little reward, little thanks, have taken a lot of abuse from all kinds of porters. And the bigger you are, the harder you fall. It was hard for me to think that I could somehow ever possibly be important enough in the big scheme of things that anything I ever did or said online would matter one whit to the powers that be. But I've had my share of trolls, shill attacks, and have learned to recognize the stink of shills. So, you know, I kind of know what happened. I kind of know. Going on. Anyway, I appreciate this comment from Dave very, very much. On the blog, there is a comment slot where people can put comments. I do know that in some areas of the world, Google or Blogspot or whoever will not allow people to access that comment feature. I don't know why, and it's nothing I can do on my end to change that setting. It seems that people in the United States can access it just fine, but many others overseas from me can't. But my email is functions, and feel free to email me as needed or as you want, and I'm open and welcome to that. Okay, going on to news of the day as I see it. It appears that over last weekend, a second coup of some sort, they're using the word coup, not knowing what else to call it, has ensued at the air base in Turkey, Incirlik Air Base in Turkey. Information is sketchy. I can't remember if I said this before, so let me just say it now. Information did come forward that a week before the first coup in Turkey, the family members of the American Air Force that were on Incirlik Air Base were evacuated and taken back to the States. That information was not made public, but I believe that it is true, which of course reveals that the United States Air Force had was aware that this second coup was pending and was going to take place. Well, a second event is now in progress, and the information has come out that thousands of jihadis, civilian jihadis in Turkey, have stormed Incirlik Air Base and are surrounding it. Allegedly, they are being held at bay by the Turkish military police force. Midway in all this over the weekend, United States Air Force Chief of Staff had to take an emergency flight and go to Incirlik. So far as I know, he is still there. This morning, there is no new update yet that I've been able to lay my hands on. So I think that is probably the current status quo, and it is ominous. It is my conviction that Obama, as a participating member of the Muslim Brotherhood, is fully complicit in whatever this is, and has in effect given Turkey a large number of nuclear munitions. It is still unclear for sure what exactly those munitions are. Around 50 planes capable of carrying and dropping these payloads. So this sets up the scenario, the possible scenario for two very ominous situations which may develop out of this. I hope to hell not. But the puzzle pieces are all there. So I am telling you now, there is likelihood of two things. Likelihood that there will be some kind of display of nuclear blackmail. This is nuclear blackmail is one of the oldest tactics since World War II that the Zionists have continued to use. So one could be pretty sure they're going to field once again the nuclear blackmail using those planes at Incirlik and whatever armament is involved. The second thing, equally as awful, is that there is the ingredients, the puzzle pieces are all present for a horrendous hostage situation. Similar to what went on during the Carter administration involving Iran. For the younger ones who probably don't remember this, the American public at that time, and I don't know how this was shown throughout the greater world, but in America, on our televisions, we were shown this airplane taken, this hijacked airplane on the tarmac, and one by one, Americans were removed, murdered, and thrown out of that airplane onto the tarmac. And this hostage situation went on and on and on and on and on. One of the hostages, a guy named Terry Anderson, who was a Christian missionary, was the last to be released. I remember vividly the CNN coverage of his release. He finally stepped forward with a pair of broken glasses. Bernard, whatever his name was, a big CNN black anchor man, interviewing him. And this ushered in then the Reagan administration. So the American public have seen Americans held captive by Muslims, by, in that case it was the Ayatollah of Iran. And there's 1,500 United States Air Forcemen essentially captive on that air base right now in Turkey. So we're going to see some kind of outplay, I think, of Chicken Little versus Turkey-Lurky. Be prepared for that. If it happens, it will indeed be grueling, emotionally grueling, either which way it goes. Not to mention factually dangerous. Okay, going on. As I think I said the last time I spoke, I was astonished when an article that I posted went, for me, went viral. And that was the article that was entitled, "The Pope Demands Poland Open Borders to Muslim migrants. This article is still getting many, many, many hits. I am seeing some evidence that maybe some other pieces that I have put up are also maybe circulating in a different way, maybe through, I'm seeing a lot of referrals from Facebook now. I never had Facebook referrals. I'm not sure quite what in the analytics referrals means, but the word Facebook is coming up and up and up. So who knows where all this is going. And it seems significant to me, and I said this the other day, that there may be, in fact, some kind of news blackout in Europe with regard to the Pope's remarks, since there was so much, why would the viewing public in Europe need to go to some really obscure little American blog to get that information? So there must be a news blackout connected to that in the countries that have been viewing my blog. That's my theory. I could be wrong, but that's how I read it. And I then looked for and posted other information, other pieces related to what the Pope said, to what the Pope said in Poland, because, oh my God. And some interesting pieces did come up. And what the hell was the Pope talking about? His remark that I find most significant is, I will quote it, alluding to Poles' reluctance to accept Muslim migrants, the Pope declared that none of the conflict in the world is related to religion in any way. He said, "When I speak of war, I speak of war over interests, money, resources, not religion. All religions want peace. It's the others who want war." And one of my colleagues sent me, communicated with me by private post about some work, some additional work by a researcher whose material I had been posting. And the other day I was fumbling around, I couldn't think of the man's name. Dr. Bill Warner. I put up quite a few videos of Dr. Bill Warner, who is a scientist and a truth researcher who has analyzed, using scientific methods and his astonishingly great brain, he has analyzed political Islam. I'm still studying his work. My colleague had gone ahead and found another lecture, more recent, given by Dr. Bill Warner, that in my colleague's mind helped explain the Pope's remarks. I would like to be able to adjudicate this in 25 words or less. I don't believe I can do this. We're talking about an extremely complex subject, and everybody, to become coherent, is going to have to, I can't sum it up for you. I think you're going to have to listen yourself to this material and this information. But anyway, this piece, this latest video, that was, the link was forwarded to me by my colleague, had to do with an incident that happened in 2015 of which I was not aware. I had no awareness that this happened. In that time frame, in 2015, in July, this was July 15th, 2015, so that was almost a year ago, almost exactly, it was a year ago from the coup of Incirlik Air Force Base. A year ago, I was in extremely dire straits, where getting enough to eat was on a daily basis a huge issue. Staying alive on a daily basis was a huge issue. I was trying to obtain a passport so that I could go where I wanted to go. And I was trying to obtain the money which belonged to me, which was not in my possession. Money belonging to me was unfortunately tied up. My hands were tied. I couldn't get to it. My several sons had access to that money and would not give it to me. And my one son was, I now recognize, this was more than gangs, more than drugs. My one son, who was holding me ransom in his house, essentially, threatening to chain me in the basement and otherwise displaying massive full spectrum dominance over me. I just was in extremely dire straits. During the month of July in 2015, there are parts of it that I can't even, it was so horrendous. It was so horrendous. And I would not have made it through that if I had not had very much love and support coming to me from a distant place. I wouldn't have made it. And I was also aware and following at that time loads of military armament moving up and through the Sacramento Valley in California. And I was following the progress, the parade of Jade Helm at that time, and many other things. But in any case, this one episode involving the Chattanooga attack escaped my attention. I did not know anything about the Chattanooga attack. So since Professor Warner's video is addressing this particular Islamic attack, I had to go back and find the missing pieces that were missing from me about this Chattanooga attack before I could begin to make sense of what the professor is saying about it. Well, this involved the shooting of 4 U.S. Marines by Kuwaiti-born Mohammed Yosef Abdulaziz, and was at that time the latest attack on U.S. military on American soil. I will put all this information up. And the first thing I found when I went to look for this information was a picture of the psychopath with a smirky little smile and those psychopath eyes. There is something about the psychopath eyes, the demonic, the demonic, taunting, self-satisfied somehow expression in those eyes. That's a demonic expression. Going on, the FBI is investigating whether a gunman in a sports car who killed 4 U.S. Marines in Chattanooga, Tennessee, was inspired by Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. So even as recently as a year ago, the Islamic State was at that time, a year ago, being tied to Iraq and the Levant. We now have a much broader picture of what the Islamic State is actually tied to. Going on, this guy was 24 years old. He attacked 2 military facilities with an arsenal of weapons before dying in a shootout. He was born in Kuwait but lived near Chattanooga and was a naturalized American who had graduated from an American school with an engineering degree. Going on, now this is the Wikipedia version of these events. Scrolling down, on July 16th, 2015, opened fire on 2 military installations in Chattanooga, Tennessee. He first committed a drive-by shooting at a recruiting center, then traveled to a U.S. Navy Reserve Center and continued firing where he was killed by police in a gunfight. 4 Marines died on the spot. A Navy sailor, a Marine recruiter, and a police officer were wounded. The sailor died from his injuries 2 days later. On December 16th, following an investigation. Okay, so that was from July to December 16th. What is that, 5 months? 5 months later, following an investigation, Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI Director James B. Comey said that the shootings were motivated by foreign terrorist organization propaganda. Also published on July 16th, 2015, is Donald Trump. You know, I think in my own case, in July of 2015, I was not aware whatsoever of Donald Trump having an aspiration to gain the nomination for the Republican Party to be President of the United States. I don't think I paid any attention, knew anything about Donald Trump in that regard a year ago. But nonetheless, a year ago, July 16th, 2015, there is this piece. USA Islamic Muslim terrorist attack, Chattanooga, Tennessee. Military gun-free zones, Donald Trump. Donald Trump absolutely ridiculous. Donald Trump absolutely ridicules Marines not allowed to carry guns. And he speaks about this on Fox News Live with O'Reilly. And I'm putting up a video showing Donald Trump and his remarks of July 16, 2015. Dr. Bill Warner's website. I didn't know he had a website, but yes, he does. And so there's the link to it. I'm putting that up. Some videos by Dr. Bill Warner. He is basically saying that there is no such thing as non-radical Islam. There is no such thing as radical versus non-radical Islam. All Islam is Islam. And it is pluralistic in several important regards, which he will define and explain. Islam is not a religion. It is a political entity, which I personally am fully convinced is demonic in origin. As we really study Islam and really study who and what Mohammedan was, no other conclusion can be reached. Dr. Bill Warner goes on, Islamic attack on Chattanooga, why it happened and what to do. Okay, the background of this is concerned citizens in Chattanooga after this event happened asked Dr. Warner to speak with them, explain to them why it happened, why it happened, and what to do. The table of contents, the gathering, which was held under the Tea Party tent. We don't care about, what tent. It was that this eminent scholar was asked by a group of very concerned Americans to address them on this subject. So the meeting started with prayer, went on to the Pledge of Allegiance. There was an introduction by Mark West. And Dr. Warner began speaking about official Islam, the objective study of Islam, jihad, dualism, conclusions. At the 23-minute mark, he discusses losing the civilizational war. At the 34-minute mark, he discusses winning the civilizational war. Voices for the voiceless. At the 48-minute mark, he talks about the law of Islamic saturation. Tears of jihad. He ends with tears of jihad. And finally, the video concludes with a session of questions and answers. And all of this is related to what the Pope said in Poland and why the Polish people, and this is my impression, I could be wrong, but I think one of the massive feelings that the Polish people may have regarding what the Pope said is an overwhelming sense of betrayal and huge resentment. Going on. Further videos that I have posted is Dr. Werner talking about how Islamic doctrine underlies each action. How Islamic doctrine underlies jihad. How Islamic doctrine underlies Sharia. How Islamic doctrine underlies rape. Rape is a doctrine? Yeah, rape is a doctrine. Again, I am saying that this rape phenomena has absolutely nothing to do with normal, healthy human sexuality. This is demonic. Islam is demonic. And it has been around 1400 years in its present form and evolving forward. And the rest of us are going to have to confront this monster, this demonic monster. None of us know exactly what that confrontation will look like or consist of. When I was in fear of my very life at the hands of my son in July a year ago, and I saw the various faces of several demonic entities moving, animating my son's body, speaking with his voice, looking out from his eyes. All right, forgive me, I kind of scrolled away there in my own recollection. Don't worry, I will come back to that thought. I guess I just had to take a break from it. I didn't do this video last night. I didn't broadcast. Jenny calls it a broadcast. I didn't do this broadcast last night because it happened that after a long day, I was preparing to do this broadcast. But Jenny came upstairs, disturbed about something that was extremely personal to her. And we had necessary conversation about that. And that conversation then led between she and I into the discussion about we ended up talking about we need to go to the gun range. She and I need to go to the gun range. We both need to practice. I need to practice more than Jenny does. I have not handled guns since, I was a 12-year-old kid. That, uh, all right, moving on from that. Maybe I'll elaborate more on that at another time, but anyway, depending who you are, where you are, what your options are, what your inner guidance is going to call you forth to do as your role in this war. There really is a call out. Onward, Christian soldiers marching as to war. We know now, we see more clearly who, where, and what the face of the enemy is. And we have been called. Many of us are aware of having been called. And it's not going to look like what anybody would have ever thought it did. There is a piece that I want to read. I have it up here. I'm not quite sure how it fits in the dialogue. But I followed Sipsy all this time. Sipsy is still living. Bless his heart. He's like the Energizer Bunny. He just keeps going. Sipsy rallied enough to put up a piece, which I am going to read. It's not that long. The new Nazis. I first came to live in Germany in January 2005. As a soldier, before you leave, other non-coms who had spent time there would reminisce to no end about the crazy parties and the streets of beer. I did not really believe it, although as a freshly separated bachelor, I had entertained the idea. Right after I landed in Rhine, Maine, I was introduced to bottles of Crystal Weizen, and the bartender, a gentleman that seemed to have been a consolation prize to the U.S. Army after the war, gave me the facts of life speech on living in Germany. This is a United States serviceman. The bartender did corroborate the stories of women that flowed like the beer, but he also gave me sage advice to never go at it alone and to stick to the main streets. Turks, he said, like wild dogs, travel in packs and hunt the weak and unaware. I was incredulous. It seemed odd to me that anyone would hate me on the sole basis of being American. Furthermore, I just came back from fighting a country that hated Turkey. I had not even seen a Turk, much less had any reason to fear or dislike one. I did not understand the radicalized mind then. I know better now. In Kaiserslautern of 2005, we had a rash of stabbings. Always Turks. Always single GIs that would go down an alleyway as a shortcut and come out with a punctured lung or worse. Eventually, the Air Force Security Police and the Army Military Police patrolled enough to push the gangs away. But it was easy enough to find a fight elsewhere. They had a particular dislike of black soldiers, but to this day, I still do not know why. They had an affection for gangsta rap and embraced the thug identity in response to assimilation. Violence and the inherent insulation of Islam would be the response to a world shifting below their feet. Not much has changed for the better in the 10 years since. I personally did not have a bad encounter with the Turks, but I have the Russians and the old man to thank for that. By the old man, I think he means the bartender. When I started dating my wife, and I'm presuming he's talking about his German wife, she had moonlighted as a bartender in a small pub outside of Saarbrücken. The night we met, being obviously smitten, I asked her if I could meet her again. She said she had to work the next weekend, but I could tag along and get some free beer. Having a hot German chick pour beers for me all night sounded better than fine. So I took the train and I met her in Saarbrücken. Later in the evening, a group of about 6 or so Russians came in the bar, obviously already pretty tanked, and started harassing the locals. They saw me, a lone guy flirting with the bartender at the end of the bar, and sized me up. Having been pretty new to Germany and could not speak much of any German at the time, I asked the girl to translate. Quote, "If I have to get off of this bar stool, you will have to drink applesauce through a straw the rest of your life." To the biggest one. I winked at him, pointed to myself, and said, "Americana," and went back to drinking. Neither I nor the locals were bothered the remainder of the night. I discovered to be true what my old man said to me a long time before that. When dealing with hostile groups, you look at the biggest one like you are going to remove their testicles with something dull, and they will usually back down. However, if not, be mentally prepared to inflict wholesale violence. I had to repeat this same look to groups of Turks in the preceding years and have not had anything get out of hand. I have been fortunate when many others I know have not. Later, in 2005, I did hear a story which I did not understand the why of it as I do now after having spent more time in both Europe and the Middle East. Mein Kampf had been a runaway hit in Istanbul, and it had made some small notice in some online publications. According to the Daily Sabah, the book was banned in 2007 but has resurfaced this year. As last vestiges of a secular Turkey were removed with the recent failed coup, Ataturk's Turkey is no more. Fascism, repackaged as Islamic fascism, has once again come into favor. It is not just the anti-Semitism that attracts them, but the idea that they belong to a great master race whose duty is to subjugate and rule the lesser species. What was old is made new again. the current peace between the Muslim and Westernized communities, which includes the African and Eastern European neighborhoods, in Europe are tenuous, and it is a breath away from blowing up. For the first time in its history, Europe will be at war with foreign forces it placed within its own borders. Fascism, whether it is the homegrown or the Islamic variety, is incompatible with Western culture, and one will inevitably try to choke out the other. It is its natural state. For too long have Germans in particular, and the West in general, not looked at the oppression around them and told them very plainly that they will meet harm with overwhelming violence. Perhaps it is past time that they could have done so and had any meaningful impact to the forces that conspire against them now. I am sick to think that the beautiful cobbled streets and vaulted cathedrals of Berlin, Paris, or Vienna would see this kind of war again. History may not repeat itself, but it does sometimes rhyme. I will put this up, and I will put the video with it, which accompanies the piece. Translated, the rhyme is: Ottoman Germany, the German words, the English words, we will take over this whole land. I was looking at other things. Many other people have been looking at other things as well. I didn't see Islam coming. I think it is odd. It strikes me. At some of the things that seem to be coincidental. It is coincidental that DQ was removed and taken out at the time that certain other things began to happen. It is coincidental that the little forum we were working on was threatened with takeout, and by decapitating the head of the forum. The forum essentially was gutted. The pieces are still there, but there's very little, if any, life. And why was that? We could have gone on forever, probably. We would not have been molested, I think, had we kept our dialogue, our research, only on, the far out conspiracy theory, flat Earth and adjacent. Especially, we could have talked about Nibiru and the incoming planet, and you could have gone on and on about CERN and a lot of things. But we did more than that. We trespassed. We went way overboard. We posted current events. I was guilty of a lot of that. I put up Trump stuff. They didn't want me to put up Trump stuff. They didn't want me to put up Islam stuff. They didn't want me really to put up Zionist stuff. They tolerated that, but we put up a lot of stuff. And we put up Christian stuff. I think that was one of the coincidental factors for why they wanted DQ removed. Just funny how things unravel. We're in the time of truth. And, you know, the truth is going to be revealed one way or another. Some of us, there are ways. I'm totally convinced there are ways that the tinfoil hatters have been called as missionaries of the truth. Huh. And with their calling came, you know, what? An equal number, about 50-50. Was that what the ratio was? Of shills and trolls? Masterminds? Creating some of the craziest scenarios that have ever been dreamed up. And fronting it all. And that's what we've been having to put up with. Going on, one more piece that just popped up. I don't know to what extent this comes from Steve Quayle. I have to report it because I think part of it is I'm feeling the same thing. Hello, Steve. This writer says, this is an anonymous writer. I have checked with other intercessors, and it has been the same. Last night, an increased sense of restlessness throughout the night. We are on the brink of something major, which I believe will be related to jihad here in the USA. Intercessors. These people are called to be prayer warriors. I have studied a little bit about the intercessors, not enough to speak with much authority about it. I have done a little bit of work on that on my blog, but not a lot. Going on. Last night I was on my nightly prayer walk and feeling an increased sense of restlessness. This did not go away and lasted throughout the night. I got very little sleep with the continued sense of restlessness and the need to continue in intercession. This occurred on and off all night into the morning. After some time in prayer, I was given Ezekiel 23 for the United States, with the following verses that stand out. Folks, this is what I perceive to be a warning about jihad within the USA, and no amount of prayers will stop this judgment from happening. And Ezekiel 23, 28 through 35 is quite lengthy. It begins by saying, For thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I will give you into the hands of those whom you hate, into the hand of those from whom you were alienated. 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 I would normally pronounce that alienated, but I'm not sure if that is actually the word that's meant. They will deal with you in hatred, take all your property, and leave you naked and bare. And the nakedness of your harlotries will be uncovered, both your lewdness and your harlotries. These things will be done to you because you have played the harlot with the nations, because you have defiled yourself with their idols. You have walked in the way of your sister. Therefore, I will give her cup into your hand. Thus saith the Lord God, you will drink your sister's cup, which is deep and wide. You will be laughed at and held in derision. It contains much. It will be filled with drunkenness and sorrow, the cup of horror and desolation. Okay, and there is more, but that's enough for right now. I want to go back here to this word. The Christian community, the evangelist type of Christian, uses this word judgment a lot. The judgment of God. The judgment. And they always depict that this judgment is going to amount to this absolutely horrible, horrible thing happening to the people of God, to God's own people, this horrible judgment. I think this is error. I think this is error thought programming. That you've got the facts right, but the piece in the quilt is misplaced. In substituting the word judgment for the word decision, no amount of prayers will stop this decision from happening. God's judgment is God's decision. Decision. Decision is the word that should go there. And this vile, horrible, and it is vile and horrible, promise or threat, as one would. For thus saith the Lord God, I will give you into the hand of those whom you hate, into the hand of those from whom you were alienated. They will deal with you in hatred, take all your property, and leave you naked and bare. Who is the you? Who is the you? Is that you and I? Is that the United States of America? Who is the you? The mainstream Christian churches will all seem unanimous in teaching that you who is going to reap this terrible judgment is the people of the United States of America. I don't hear it that way. That's not how it comes to me. Those who it is the dark kingdom, the kingdom of darkness, who is the intended beneficiary of this admonition. And the kingdom of darkness is the Sodomites, all of them, from the Satanic and Luciferian at the top of the New World Order pyramid scheme, including the Muslims, including all of Islam, including all the Sodomites, including and including and including. This is not a threat being made to the children of God. And I do think that there is still great error and unclarity among the Christian watchmen. And there is no unanimity yet as to what is actually being revealed. It is not going to look like what anybody expects. All right. And, you know, I am probably the last person on the planet who ever but I have to tell you the truth of it as it is to me. As it is to me. Knowing that, going back to the beginning of all of this, if there is one piece put in the quilt wrong, it distorts all the other information. And so we have to go back and find the piece that is put in incorrectly and straighten it up. We are not all knowing. Our current state of awareness is not like it is not our end state. We still have much further to go, much more to learn, and there will be other pieces of information that sort of sneak up as well, I would expect. So fear not, little flock. There is an increased sense of restlessness. We are on the brink of something major, and which I too believe will be related to jihad here in the USA. All right. It's always hard to begin and end. All right, I gotta go downstairs and start some dinner and continue doing what we do, whatever that is. I love you all very much. Thank you for being there for me and with me. And we will go on. I will talk with you again soon. Later, Gator. Remember, I love you. Remember, DQ, I love you. I always have, and I always will.